Joan Griffin, and I'm back today with Reading in the Wild for Auburn Community TV. And I want to thank you for being here with me today to talk about books with an environmental flavor across all genres. And you'll remember they come from my curated list of Read Your Way Through Earth Month books for 2026. And I have 3 really fun books to share with you today. First is a mystery thriller called Havoc, which takes place along the Colorado Trail. A Walk in the Park by Kevin Fedarko, which takes place hiking the Grand Canyon. And Everest and the Rest of Us by James Nurig, which takes place all over the place on trails of various kinds. So I chose these 3 books to put together and share with you today because they all have a central theme of trails. Be they walking trails, hiking trails, biking trails, but wilderness trails. And again, though they all have the same environmental topic, walking through the wilderness or traveling through the wilderness, these are stories that are told in different ways. We have a novel. We have 2 hybrid memoirs that couldn't be more different. So let's start with Havoc. Now, I've told you about this author, Cam Torrance, before, several months ago, because I shared one of his previous books. This happens to be book number 5 in a series of mystery thrillers by Cam Torrance. Now, I happen to know Cam because we share a publisher, and his very first book came out almost exactly the same time as my own book, Force of Nature, came out. So we sort of bonded around the idea of being brand new authors and not having a clue what to do about it. Cam is right this very moment, as we speak, hiking the Pacific Crest Trail with his adult daughter. And so this is a man who's a real adventurer. Cam lives and works in Colorado in a little town that we Californians would call Buena Vista, but the Coloradans called Buena Vista. Little town right near the Rocky Mountain National Park. He's retired Air Force pilot. He works with the search and rescue in his area. And guess what? His main character, Tyler Zahn, is also a retired Air Force pilot who works with search and rescue in the Colorado Rockies. They're different personalities in a lot of ways, but I think there's a little bit of an overlap, and that Cam finds himself in his main character. I think this is my favorite of the 5 books published in the series. And I'll tell you why. Because it's about women hiking on a long distance trail. And I have, a close affinity to that because of my own hiking on a long distance trail. So in the story, Tyler Zahn's girlfriend and his daughter don backpacks to walk the 400-mile trail. And as any good man would, he's concerned about them. He knows they're perfectly capable, but he's also a little concerned about them. And he has reason to be, as he discovers. It's not the bears that are the problem. It's wild men that are out there, dressed in black and carrying automatic weapons. And so he decides they need rescuing, and he's going to rescue them whether they want it or not. But it's quite a wild and crazy story, and I just loved it. It made me laugh out loud numerous times and kept me up. I don't know, I hate to admit it, till 2 o'clock in the morning reading it, and I finished it the next morning. Just couldn't keep my eyes open to finish it that night, though I wanted to. Anyway, it's a really fun, high energy story with the thriller mystery all through it, but something that Cam does really well is describe the environment. So you get to actually take a trip to the Colorado Rockies when you read this book. Now I wanted to share a couple of reviews with you. I love this one. Tyler Zahn is the Indiana Jones of the Rockies, racing an evil enemy to secure an ancient treasure while protecting his daughter from harm. And the other one I like is, I finished the book at 2 in the morning. Not my review, someone else did that too. And I had to be up at 5:30, so you have been warned. Which I thought was really, really fun. The second book in our series today is, sorry, wrong one, A Walk in the Park. And it has a great subtitle, The True Story of a Spectacular Misadventure in the Grand Canyon by Kevin Fedarko. Now, in case you don't know him, he also wrote another book about the Grand Canyon called the Green River, the Green Canyon, I forget. That was a historic look at someone else's fastest run of the Colorado River. This is his own personal adventure. So this is what you call a hybrid memoir. It's not only about his personal experiences, responses, determination, motivation, excitement, but it's also a lovely look at the history and the science of the Grand Canyon. So the first scene has him and his hiking partner essentially dangling from the cliffs on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and one of them is sure he's about to die, and as a reader you think he's about to be at least maimed. But it was the lesson that these two young men learned that, no, we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared physically, mentally, and we need to seek out some experts. So the rest of the book is them not only accomplishing their main goal, which is to walk the entire length of the Grand Canyon, which only a couple of other people in the world have ever done, but also to learn as much as they can about it. And they seek out experts. Sometimes those experts guide them. Sometimes those experts just fill in the blanks. But they speak with Native American leaders about the history of the people that lived there before it was a park and are now living there again, only just recently. They talk to scientists about the plants and the animals. They talk to geologists, but they also found the experts that would help them walk the length. It sounds simple. You get on a trail, you walk from here to there, but that's not the case. There are trails along portions of the canyon at the top, along the rim, and there are portions of a trail down near the water. And there are trails that go up and down in various places, but there is no one trail that goes from end to end. So a lot of the places where they're traversing, they're making their own trail. They're walking on places where there is no trail. And the weather changes things. So when the storms roll in, it changes the situation. Something that looked like it'd be a piece of cake suddenly becomes treacherous. So one of the best books I read all year, and I think I read 75 books last year, and this was in the top 5, certainly. And it's received lots and lots of rave reviews. Fedarko lives in the area of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. He absolutely loves it. He's made it the kind of the heart of his outdoor experience, as though he's much more experienced than that. I highly, highly recommend it. let's see if I have a review I can share with you on that one. Yeah, here's the New York Times. A rollicking and poignant account of an epic 750-mile odyssey on foot through the heart of the Grand Canyon. Or the New York Times Book Review says, a triumph. Federico doesn't describe awe, he induces it. Or the Wall Street Journal says, passionate, memorable, and life-affirming. It received lots and lots of different awards. It's like an ode, a love song written to the Grand Canyon. This is one quote about it that I liked. There was the great gorge itself, austere and unforgiving, yet suffused with magic, drenched in wonder, and redeemed by its own transcendent beauty. A singular portrait of a sublime place. So you get this, which is true, this is true of all of these books. You get these amazing stories that grab you by the throat and you just can't let them go. They're exciting, they're wonderful, you can't wait to find out what happens next. But they're also like this testament to why we need to preserve these places and why we need to take care of these places so that our children and our grandchildren and people who have never been to the wilderness can come out and experience these places the way that we have. And that's super important right now in our world, to preserve the natural beauty that we have. The third book I want to share with you is called Everest and the Rest of Us, with the subtitle 4 Journeys in the Search of Adventure. And this is by James Nurick. I also know Jim, and I've only recently met Jim because he was referred to me because I wrote an adventure book about hiking. And so someone referred him to me so that he and I could kibitz just a little bit about how to be authors. I like this book because it's a completely different take on the adventure memoir. You know, there's lots and lots of books out there about hiking, about sailing across an ocean, about climbing a mountain, that are all adventure stories written by the people who experienced the adventure, who want to share that adventure with you because it was so wonderful, and they want you to have that experience too. Jim is coming at this from a different direction, which I found really original. Now, he's a retired professor of education in Massachusetts, and his particular area of study was, what is the best way to teach children? So he was always looking at different experimental ways of how to teach children, how to turn them into people who loved to learn, loved to grow, made it their personal adventure to learn. And he turns that kind of an idea to his adventuring. So the first adventure in the book is about him bicycling across part of the northern United States, east to west. The second adventure in the book is about him paddling down the inland waterway along the East Coast for several hundred miles. The third adventure is him walking the Camino de Santiago in northern Spain. But the fourth of the 4 journeys is this philosophical dive into why. Why do people love to go on adventures? What's the motivation? What do we get out of it? What's the reward? And so he brings in little tidbits of research throughout the whole thing. And I found that part fascinating. Why the heck do we do it? You know, somebody asked Hillary, why do you want to climb Mount Everest? And he said, because it's there. Well, that's not a very complete answer. But if you ask other people, why did you walk the John Muir Trail? Why are you walking the Pacific Crest Trail? Why did you walk the Colorado Trail? Why did you want to sail across the North Sea? They don't always have really thorough answers. Yet that's what Jim Nureg is looking at, is why do humans have this need to do something new and different? Now he looks at physical adventures in the physical world, the natural world. Obviously, some of us, our adventures are in different kinds of places, and he acknowledges that by saying that this inner look at why do we do adventures is an adventure too. So going back to school is an adventure. Learning to play the piano is an adventure, and he looks at those kind of things. So I found it truly fascinating. So 3 books here that come at the idea of adventure and hiking trails or biking trails from 3 different, really different directions. We have the murder mystery. We have the at first bumbling and finally successful personal hiking adventure. And then we have this investigation, this intellectual investigation into the idea of adventure and what it gets us. So no matter what kind of book you like to read, I hope one of these will really reach out to you. Now, the angle for the book clubs, I like to do that with you. How about a picnic? It's a perfect, any of these are all outdoor adventures. So instead of meeting in someone's living room or at the library, wherever your book club meets, how about a picnic? At a picnic table at one of your local parks. My book club actually did this last month, and we went down to Recreation Park in Auburn. There's a new mural on the wall of the building down there that shows, in fact, all sorts of adventuring as well as historic things about Auburn. And there's a picnic table right there. And we did a potluck picnic table. Somebody brought a salad, somebody brought desserts. You know, it was that kind of a thing. What a great way to celebrate the out of doors and personal experience that these books suggest. So what have we got here? We've got 3 adventure books that I hope that you will delve into. Those of you who just love a murder mystery, Havoc. That's the one for you by Cam Torrens. Those of you who love a true adventure story and or love the Grand Canyon and other national parks, then A Walk in the Park by Kevin Fedarko is for you. Those of you who love adventure but also love the idea of thinking about the motivation, why do we do the things that we do and what are the rewards, then I would suggest Everest and the Rest of Us by Jim Nureg. Now, I have 3 books that I've chosen for next month, and I also want to tell you about my own book. I'm sorry, I'm fiddling with my papers here and I'm about to lose control. Here we go. Here's my book, Force of Nature. 3 women tackle the John Muir Trail. So as long as we're on the theme of personal adventures, that's a good one. So next month, I've picked out 2 books to share with you. Both of them are speculative fiction. That's the new term where they're combining all of these different genres of science fiction, fantasy fiction, or even books that have a drip of magical realism in them. These 2 books are set in the future, so it's a speculation of what the future might be like. One is called Light Pirate by Lily Brooks Dalton, and the other, The Ministry of Time by Kellyanne Bradley. I have to tell you, these are 2 of my favorite books on this list as well. So I want to thank you for being here with me today in Reading in the Wild and talking about books with an environmental and nature-centered theme. I'm Joan Griffin. See you next time.